Hey, it's me, TB, and today I'm bringing to you a video all about some recommendations for where to start in the adult category of fiction and nonfiction and all that stuff. Because I hear people talk about how it's hard to find like where to start in adult and kind of like move from YA to adult. So I'm going to like offer some recommendations for stuff that is like kind of hit a variety of interests. Maybe it's going to be like part one, I think 2 parts. So no idea when part 2 will be coming. This video will focus mostly on fantasy, mysteries, and nonfiction. I'm gonna have 3 recommendations for each of those categories, so that's like 9 books total. And yeah, I guess we can just get started because there's not really anything else to like talk about, you know? So first up, probably gonna be one of the more popular books on this list. And I did try to kind of like keep away from more popular things, just for, you know, for the sake of like hyping up lesser known books, and also just to like not get on here and talk about A Court of Thorns and Roses again, or the Shadowhunter Chronicles again, or any other series that always gets talked about in videos that recommend books. So there's that too. And that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Obviously this fits into the fantasy category, and I think that this one just feels more YA than adult sometimes, and not in a bad way, but I feel like it emulates some of the better qualities that YA used to have. Granted, there are some like torture scenes, and it does get like pretty dark at times, so like it's not like super happy or whatever. But so I feel like if you want a multi-POV fantasy that takes place in a different world than our own, here you go. So this world is inspired by the pre-Columbian Americas, and in this world, or in this book, we are following, I think, 3 POVs. So one is like one of the priests who's in charge of the religious ceremonies in the main capital. And in the first POV, we find out that they've been betrayed and they're murdered. And through their POV, we're kind of like going back to how events got to that point. Then our other 2 POVs are Serapio, who is this guy that has basically been told his whole life that he has some connection with the Crow God, and he's going to usher in a new age for his people. And he undergoes some severe mutilation at the start of the book. It will help facilitate the process of summoning this Crow God. And then we have Ziala, who is going with Serapio because she has his boat, and Serapio needs to get to the capital, and she's also a Teak, and a Teak has the power to like control water and like calm the waves, so like storms can't really like hurt their boats or whatever. Usually I don't like multi-POV stories, but I liked how they were done in this one. I also didn't feel like the timeline was too confusing. Like it all made sense to me, but that is something that people sometimes like bring up and talk about, so there's that. And I'm pretty sure the sequel to this is going to be announced sometime later this year, so you can look forward to that. Next is White Trash Warlock by David R. Slayton, and this is basically following Adam Binder, who has the sight, and the sight allows him to see all kinds of like supernatural creatures and all that stuff, as well as have some limited form of like magical ability. And when he was a child, he was sent away by his family to a psych ward because his family thought he was like not mentally well. It was just that he could see magical things and they could not. So now he is an adult, and he is trying to track down his missing father, and while on that trail he gets a message from his brother that something is going wrong in Denver. And once he gets to Denver, Adam finds out that there's a floating monster in the sky that is wreaking havoc, and it has killed all the other magic users in the city. He has to try and kind of figure out how to take down this monster. Adam is queer, and he does date another guy in this. It's not like a main focus or anything, but it is like a side plot, so there is that if you want that. Obviously this takes place in our world, but with the idea that there's like the secret supernatural side to it. So if you want something similar to that, here's this, and the sequel to this is also coming out later this year. So here you go. Now this next one is kind of like cheating, but I'm going to count it anyway. It will also serve as a transition point to the next section, so I'm going to use it anyway, and that is The Conductors by Nicole Glover. Now technically this is a mystery novel, but there is magic in it, and I'm going to count it because of that. So this is following our main characters Hetty and Benji, and they were conductors on the Underground Railroad. So this takes place in the years, I think, immediately after the Civil War has ended, and while doing that they use magic to do it, mostly through the use of their magical powers, which manifest in the form of like astrological signs, I guess, or like star formations, constellations, something like that. I forget like the right word, but it's that. And so since it's like post-Civil War, they now basically only use magic to like solve mysteries for people. And in this one, they have the problem of like there are black people turning up with like a weird magical like mark carved into their bodies, and basically have to figure out who is using the mark and who is killing all these people. So yeah, there you go. It does kind of like bounce between two timelines, I guess, kind of. We get like them during the Underground Railroad, and then like in, I guess, like present day, you know, post Civil War. And yes, the mystery element, it does take like precedence over the like more fantastical parts. I would say that the magic system in this is more like light and soft. So if you want something that isn't like complicated, and there aren't really like any like hardbound, like I guess, rules to it, I guess. Like in this one, they're like, yeah, there's magic, but you don't have to like focus in on that to enjoy it, you know? Like you can kind of just like coast along, you're just like, and just be here for the ride, you know? And also for this one, I think the sequel is also coming out later this year, so yeah, for that. And I probably should have said this at the start, but I'm pretty sure every book I'm going to name was a 5-star read for me, or at least like a 4-star. So these are all like good books to me. So there you go. Or at least in this video. So yeah. So now we are into like mysteries / thrillers. So again, I'm going to try and hit like a variety of things. So you have like choices here. So first is The Body in the Garden by Katherine Schellman. And this is a historical mystery that takes place during the Regency period in England. And basically, Lily Adler is a recent widow, and she has moved back to London. And while at a ball for one of her friends, she basically witnesses someone being shot, but she doesn't like see who shot him. She only hears the gunshot, and then she finds the dead body. So she decides to investigate, to figure out who killed this man. And, you know, stuff happens. I will say that even though this is a historical mystery, I feel like it doesn't like require you to know a lot about the period. Like it does feel very realistic to the period, but without like drowning you in details, or at least it did not feel that way to me. And I did also like our cast in this, so that's also a plus. And I did not see the twist coming, but then again, that's just me being stupid, so who knows. And yeah, probably the other two sections are going to be like shorter, because like it's hard to like talk about a lot of these books when there isn't like a fantastical world to like describe to you, you know. So I guess there's that. We have the Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo. So this is like book 1 in a long-running Japanese detective series. And I think only 2 books have been translated this far, and it's like this one and then book 10, which are weird choices, but that's what we got to work with. And this one is also like kind of historical, because it was first published in, I think, the 1970s. Yeah. But it takes place in Japan in 1937. And this is like one of those series where you follow an eccentric detective. So in this one, we are following Bosuke Kindaichi. But we'll say that even though he is like an eccentric detective like trope, I feel like him being weird isn't like the main focus in any of this. He's the one that like solves mysteries or whatever, but he isn't like as eccentric as other detectives in that trope, or at least to me anyway. So this takes place in the village of Okamura, because there is a wedding going on, and there's been a masked man going around asking questions. And on the night of the wedding, the people of the wedding families are woken up by a scream. There's a scream followed by eerie music. Death has struck the newlyweds, and there's no trace of the killer besides a samurai sword being stuck in the snow far away from the house. For this one, I will say that the twist is something like so fucking weird. There's no way you would ever know what's coming. This one is also shorter, it's under 200 pages. So there's also that. And yeah, I do think this one takes a while to like get going, just like so we can like get to the crime and then get to Kosuke getting there. But once it gets there, I feel like stuff kind of like picks up from there. So yeah, I liked reading these 2 books that have been translated so far. And yeah, I did like a twist in this. It was really weird, but I liked it because it was so weird, if that makes sense. So there you go. So we have Winter Counts by David Heska, Wanbli Weiden. This is following Virgil Wounded Horse, who is an enforcer on his reservation, which basically means that if the police can't or refuse to like discipline an individual, you know, families will pay him to go beat up the criminal in question. And he gets asked to investigate why heroin is making its way onto the reservation and who is bringing it there. And at first he says no, but then he decides to investigate once his nephew is accused of being the one, or like being involved in the drug bringing in, when he knows that his nephew is innocent. And yeah, stuff kind of like spirals from there. I did not see the twist coming. I feel like there are quite a few red herrings that could kind of like distract you from what's going on, so I did like that as well. I also liked Virgil as our like main character, and I liked the cast of characters that kind of like form around him, you know? This one is also kind of a shorter novel at being slightly over 300 pages. So next up is nonfiction, and I have 3 things for you. One that's kind of like a soft, easy nonfiction, it's kind of like chill. One that is very like focused more on like on a more like traumatic historical event. And then one that's kind of like looking at a specific phenomena throughout history. So we have a variety here. So first off, for like the more easy, soft, chill nonfiction, there is Once Upon a Town by Bob Greene. And so this is following the town of North Platte in Nebraska during World War II. This one is like really short too. I think it's like slightly over 200 pages. And basically in this town, there was once a train station like running into town, and people of the town were like setting up an event at the railway station for their soldiers that were coming home, except that like a different train comes out anyway. These soldiers were so happy to like see people like see people again, and like just normal people that weren't other soldiers, that the townspeople decided to like do like mini celebrations for all the soldiers coming through. And it's basically just kind of like chronicling that town during that period and some of the soldiers and the townspeople and like what happened. And just, it's really like soft and kind of like cute. And basically this went on like basically every day of the year during every day of the war. The area was basically fully staffed by volunteers from like sun up to like sundown. And yeah, it was just kind of like soft and chill. Not gonna lie, while talking about this book, I almost cried. So there's that. So yeah, next is the one that kind of like focused on a more like traumatic event in history, and that is Goodbye Antoura by Karnig Panian. This follows the Armenian genocide during World War I. This basically follows the author and his experiences during the Armenian genocide, obviously, and kind of like follows him from when he is just a small child, when it first starts, to him being rescued. But it's not like an easy story to read about. And I would say that if you know like nothing about the Armenian genocide, it's probably like a good place to start, because he does kind of like explain more like details you wouldn't know going into it, as well as like telling you details that he did not know at the time, but he figured out, or like he found out later, dramatic shit happening in this. So just fair warning. This one is also fairly short, at like under 200 pages. So I guess there you go. And now for the more like abstract ones, kind of like weird to like pin down, I guess. And that is Caliban and the Witch by Silvia Federici. This one basically follows the witch trials and how the witch trials kind of like affected women, how they are like treated throughout history, even to the present day. Although I will say that it focuses more on like how we got to the point where women are not viewed as like people than like the actual like witch trial period. But I feel like it does a good job of like showing how Europe got to the point of doing witch trials, if that makes sense. This also does kind of like deal heavy with like socialism and like communism elements. So if you don't want that, fair warning, you know. And yeah, it kind of sounds like a really like weird read to like start with. I usually don't read nonfiction, and I kind of like got everything just fine. There was one chapter I had to like skip though, because it was like more focused on like philosophy, and I just don't get philosophy anyway. So there's that. But overall, I just like this for like kind of showing like a more depiction of medieval Europe and how like it wasn't as clean and cut as we usually think of it, as well as kind of like getting context as to how women got kind of like degraded so fast throughout medieval European history. So there's this. And yeah, those are all the books I have for you in this part one. If you like this video, subscribe, like, share, all that. And hopefully I will see you next week.